Good morning to everyone, and welcome to one more 5G in Americas ICT Dialogues for Telecommunications Analyst session. This event aims to enrich the discussions about mobile broadband coverage in Brazil. It's a pleasure to have everyone present. Today, our guest speaker is Nathalia Lobo, Director of Sectorial Policies Department of the Brazilian Ministry of Communications. Mrs. Lobo's career in telecommunications and public policy has spanned 19 years. She has a degree in economics and holds a PhD from the University of Brasilia in the same field. She has been a civil servant of the National Telecommunications Agency, Anatel, since 2005, and occupied relevant positions such as advisor of the chairman and of the board of directors. In the executive branch, she has performed as telecommunications general coordinator of the Secretary of Infrastructure Development in the Ministry of Economy. In the Ministry of Communications, she was Secretary of Telecommunications in 2022, and she is currently the Director of Sectorial Policy Department. She is a member of the High Council of Cinema and Management Council of the Universal Service Fund. She has also participated in the establishment of the guidelines for 5G auction in Brazil. So now, let's hear a few words from Mr. José Otero, 5G Americas Vice President for Latin America and the Caribbean.
Thank you, Ludmila. It's an honor for 5G Americas to host Nathalia Lobo, who has a long trajectory in the telecom sector and is going to be presenting one of the Universal Service Fund strategy that is being consulted, being inquired about by many countries in the rest of the region. I think it is our duty as part of our mission to promote and diffuse information to ensure that everybody is aware of what is happening in Brazil so they can take the lesson that they can and look into their own countries and make a judgment if necessary. The presentation, as mentioned by Ludmila, is going to be recorded, so you could review it afterwards. And I'm thinking that we are going to be able to share the PowerPoint, if I'm correct. With that, I'm not going to take much of your time. I give you Ms. Nathalia Lobo, and welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Good morning. Thank you, José Otero. Thank you, everyone, for the audience. I hope to share a bit of our experience here in Brazil to try to fill in the gaps for 4G and mobile broadband and broadband access to everyone, giving now to get a new view of meaningful connectivity also to the population. So can you all see the slides?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So the idea here is to share a bit of our experience and let me just try to get my, there it is, found my mouse. So here we go. Just let me take a little overview of our country here. We are the 5th largest country in area. We're about just in one region here. You can fill in more than the Europe. So I believe you all know a bit of our region. We have 250 million people. We have the largest city in Latin America, and São Paulo with 12.2 million inhabitants. We have 5,570 municipalities and over 20,000 localities. So we have a very big challenge to connect everyone in this vast territory. We have the largest economy in Latin America, and it's the 12th largest economy in the world. So a bit of our mobile communication service. We have three main three main operators in 4G and 5G. We with almost varying from 20 to 30, 40% of our market share. It tends to be kind of even between them, and we have participation of MVMs today. In terms of mobile communications, I'll give you a little overview of what happened in our in Brazil during the years. From 2013, we had mainly 2G in most of the areas, most of the municipalities. And as time goes, we have an advance in 3G due to auction that we did auction commitments to coverage through 4G. And now in our 5G auction, we have expanded these obligations from not only going to 4G to all municipalities, but to all localities. So we're not focusing only on the main district in the municipality, but in all the population that are amidst the region in each municipality. Our fixed broadband is a bit different from our mobile broadband coverage. In Brazil, we have we have four main operators, okay, that were also present in the mobile, but who did the main operators that are going in between, filling the gaps where these big have no appetite to go, and building an interiorization of our infrastructure in Brazil are the ISPs, the WISPs. So these ISPs, there are over 19,000 ISPs, little ISPs, and they have built this market share that is going over 50% of market share. So this is really significant as we see that it's not only the market share that money and people are willing to get mobile and getting internet and digital inclusion, not only in the main cities and districts, but also in these small localities, and that there is a different kind of economy going on in these regions. Auction rules and obligations. The idea here is to get you a bit of our market. So we have still great gaps until the 5G auction came. We have great gaps in administering these localities that still have no 4G, okay, and they only have broadband access, fixed broadband, and maybe in some cases not even that. So the 5G auction, it comes with we have these 4 bands. It was a great big auction with 4 main bands going on. 3.5 giga, the 26 giga, 700 megahertz, and 2.3 giga. In each of these bands, it was attributed some kind of obligation and commitments. 3.5G, we had commitments going over 5G establishment, and in a standalone standard for 5G in all 5,570 municipalities and over 1,700 localities. And all in the 26 gigahertz, it was the resources went to an entity to get connectivity projects to schools. So not only connecting the school with fixed broadband, but also delivering a state-of-the-art inside the school for delivering Wi-Fi access and enable pedagogic use in the academic use in schools. In the 700, we have the main obligations to connect 4G, and all state highways, federal highways with 4G and some localities. And in the 2.3 gigahertz, we have all the localities with 4G. So before we only had the obligations for 5,570 localities, which were the main district. Now we have, the idea was to get where those localities where economically those operators have not been yet. So we ended up with a spectrum with an economic value of over 47.2 billion reais, somewhat $10 billion almost, and more than 90% of this economic value was attributed to commitments, to obligations, and most of the difference in price were converted into new commitments, and these investments were from 2022 to over to 2030. So we have now a plan to connect all the country in the next 8 years, okay, 7 now. So the obligations, as I told you, it was covering 4G with 4Gs for the 7,430 localities that had not yet been attended, and 5G deployment in all districts, in all main districts of the municipalities, 4G coverage in over 35,000 kilometers of federal highways. We are connecting to give resilience and better connectivity in the Amazonic region. We started around 2019, 2020 to connect with subfluvial cables the Amazonic region. So we deployed these subfluvial optical cables along the river beds and giving no environmental damage. And we are connecting many municipalities, many localities along these rivers. So the North region is really big, and this is really transforming the region as we're doing this different kind of thing there, where we do the capex, we do all the deployment, and then we do a procurement to see which private operators want to operate and maintain this subfluvial cable for us, and we get free access for public installations, but we now have in the first part of this project, we have now 12 operators operating in the region, where before we only had a few, 1 or 2 operators in the region, which had low quality, low SLA, and we had very high prices. So now we're bringing a new state-of-the-art of competition, of new enterprises and a new entrepreneurship in the region, where we have much of we are expecting a lot from this work. So it's connecting all the northern region of the country. And the first part we did with our own resources, and we in the 5G auction we got the other six highways, subfluvial highways going down. So Tuji here is our great consultant and our who is constructing with us all this entire new. It's an innovation because it's entirely new way of doing things in the region. It's different from what we know. We have learned a lot from many successes and main failures, and we hope to structure that as a new something to give along to other countries as a success. So we are very fond of this. I'm very fond of this work. So here you can see the map of what we are connecting. It's a really big area. It's over 12,000 kilometers of subfluvial cables going along these rivers. And this is we're doing in many smaller highways. And it's a very promising structure. So there is a broadband connectivity in public schools over the 26 gigahertz, as I told you. And now what we're here for, the Universal Service Fund. So the Universal Service Fund exists in Brazil since 2000. However, it was only here for doing fixed telephony. Okay, we couldn't use it for nothing else. And we have a great success in doing these kind of things, obligations from our concessionaires, from our before of our fixed telephony concessionaires, what we call the general plan for universalization among those fixed telephony. So we had like public phone densities in many cities. We have obligations of attending all population above 500 that has over 100 inhabitants. We have quality obligations. We have collective and individual standards to build this this general plan. So over the years, it was very successful, these plans, and it was very difficult to use this our universalization fund, as it had a very specific term that it was only due to the net. It was like we had to do a liquid. It was all, I don't know how to do this. PPL, Tuji, help me. It was only to cover the costs that weren't available, that weren't. Give me a help, Tuji. How do I say this?
You can say it in Portuguese, and we'll help you.
Ok. The VPL. O VPL era para cobrir o custo não recuperável pela exploração eficiente de serviços. How do you help me with that?
You got net present value is Daniela Araújo.
Income, and what wasn't the income didn't cover it was only for concessionary. So it was very difficult, and we only did one time. In 2006-07, we used it once to get these phones for deaf people. So you had these messages over these special phones that for deaf. the deaf. But it
Basically,
was
basically to cover the cost.
yes, to cover the cost. Now in 2020 and 2021, we had a review of the law, and now we can use it for any kind of service, including internet services, what we didn't have the opportunity to use before. We can use it for network quality, for digital transformation, and to reduce regional inequality. So it was very, and also we have a great governance structure, which is a multi-sector, multi-stakeholder committee, which is responsible for doing all the criteria for using the fund and establishing programs, projects that can be used by the fund. And the fund is structured in 3 different ways, modalities that we can use it. It is in financing projects for credit, facilitating credit for the market. We have sunk cost projects, and we have an insurance, a securitization for the financing, which we have many difficulties for, mainly for the small operators that are doing all these interiorization of the country. Just a moment. So we're structuring that. We started this structuring in 2021 after the last alteration of the fund. And we have, these are main objectives for the fund from 22 to 27. Okay, so we have to provide in the law. We have the obligation to provide Brazilian public schools, especially in the outside the urban areas, with broadband internet access at a adequate speed. Okay, so it's a meaningful connectivity there. We have to expand by 2024. Okay, that's very something. Expand mobile communication service coverage with 5G or higher in rural areas. Expand 4G or higher in urban areas that are without service. So we have many peripheric areas in big cities. We have the slums. We have settlements. So it's something that is very defined. This is challenging. State highways. We already have 4G obligations in all federal highways. So in FUST, we can use to deliver 4G or plus in all state highways. High capacity transport network infrastructure deployment, as we are doing in the Amazon region. Okay, so what's the main problem? To get better 4G and 5G services, we need transport, we need network capacity also. So this is also available for backbone and backhaul to do with FUST. We also want to expand high capacity access networks infrastructure in all municipalities. Connect points of interest, not only schools, but as health agencies, government establishments. So we have CRAS here, which is a kind of structure to attend for people in a vulnerable situation. So and we can also promote connectivity to people and social vulnerability through subsidies. Okay, we have here also some kind of, we have a program which is to give internet, 4G mobile internet chips to families in vulnerable situation too. It's something that we can do with FUST. So, so the main ideas for FUST here is to fill in the gaps. That's the idea. So we have a program which is to expand public school access to broadband internet, and all the other programs, which is to expand telecom infrastructure, may it be in mobile internet broadband coverage, or transportation, high-speed transportation infrastructure, or broadband, fixed broadband infrastructure. And the idea here is that we have the fund structured as an instrument to fill in the gaps. So after the 5G auction, what were our gaps? Which is still the remaining gaps? So we have many localities yet that were not in the 5G auction, as we had one of our blocks wasn't auctioned, wasn't awarded to anyone. So we still have around 5,000 municipal localities with no coverage obligations, and we have many indigenous population, many traditional people, communities, which still have no coverage. These weren't inside the 5G auction, mainly because you need authorization to get 4G and broadband to these population. So to have a better coordination, we do something more fit size for these population. And we still have backhaul gaps, we still have redundancy and resilience gaps, which we intend to do with FUST. We have the fund, we have instead of sanctions, when the Anatel, our agency, gives out to do obligations instead of sanctions. And we also have terms of terms of adjustment of conduct for deploying the infrastructure we still need. So this is basically how we map out the gaps and what we can do with each kind of resource. So we have one of the gaps being filled by the 5G auction, one of the gaps being filled by our main programs here. We have the Universalization Fund also as one of the structures to fill in the gap. It's interesting that our fund is still in a work in progress. We have not yet, the lines of credit lines have been launched already. We have all the documentation, everything. So we have 1.2 billion reais already being loan, being available for loans. So in order to expand infrastructure in areas where we still have little infrastructure, so it's not there for deploying more infrastructure where competition is already okay. It's only where competition is weak, or the lack of infrastructure, or in those areas where we have bad quality indexes. And so this is something that we have structured. What we are structuring now is the sunk cost one, the non-refundable usage, and we have this is a little less order of magnitude in terms of amount, but it's the exercise that we're doing is to structure this as a permanent kind of procurement, and how we seek to fill in the gaps and attend to all our clients here who are in this committee for the fund. We have Education Ministry, we have Health Ministry, we have Agricultural Ministry, we have representatives of society. So we have many clients for our fund, and the idea is to help them structure better what they need, what they want, so that the fund can be used to implement further infrastructure. Okay, the idea here is not to give only not to be a lot of OPEX, but more of CAPEX. Okay, so this is basically it. So I open the floor to questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this enlightening presentation. I have been receiving some comments via social media.